Okay. Good morning and Happy New Year. My name is Helen Foss, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you as today's worship associate. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware. Welcome to those of you here in the sanctuary this morning, and welcome to all of you at home who are watching us online. The COVID-19 community level is back up to medium, triggering our protocol to again require COVID vaccination as well as masks in the sanctuary. Thank you out there. You're welcome, however, to gather afterwards with masked fellowship, let's say, following today's service in the parish hall at the back of the sanctuary. Everyone is invited to join us. Welcome to you all, no matter the hue of your skin or the origin of your ethnicity. Welcome whomever you love and wherever you are on your spiritual journey. You are welcome here. If you're new to First Unitarian, I invite you to check out our website, firstuuwilm.org, to learn more about us and to sign up for our email newsletter that will come to you every Friday in your inbox. I do not remember the last time we held a worship service here on January 1st. I'm sure it's happened, I just don't remember. But what a great way to launch the new year. And we're delighted to have Linda Henderson today here with her music. And this morning, Reverend Larry invites us to consider the dance of our life and will also be leading us in a ritual, very simple ritual, that will acknowledge the new year. I'm intrigued. And now, let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship.
Good morning and Happy New Year. I'm the Reverend Larry Piers, minister here at First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, and I'm glad that Helen is able to join me today as worship associate, and we're going to do a responsive call to worship this morning. I want to mention that if you did not pick up an envelope in the back as you were coming in, that you might be able to do that any time during the service, in this early part of the service, maybe even during the first hymn. So let's do this call to worship together. You can remain seated. In this season of beginning, some of us are hurried and harried.
Some of us feel sorrowful and afraid.
This is your part.
Yeah.
Oh, the words aren't up there.
Okay.
Okay, let's start over.
Again.
Let's do.
Some of us feel sorrowful and afraid. Some of us are not yet ready to step forward into the future.
May we tend to one another with wisdom, meeting our friends with open ears, open eyes, and open hearts.
In this season of beginning, some of us are celebrating triumphs and joys.
Some of us feel whole and happy. Some of us are eager and excited, curious to see what happens next.
Let us each, as we are able, take part in one another's happiness and enthusiasm.
Whoever you are, wherever you are right now, whether you bring a harried and sorrowful spirit,
or whether you are eagerly and joyfully bounding into the next moment,
or somewhere in between, you are welcome here. Come. Let us enter into worship together.
If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to join me by lighting it as I read these words by Reverend Scott Taylor. Pulled in many directions by the demands of our days, we light this chalice to remind us of the still point deep inside. Made unsteady by the winds of unpredictable paths, we light this chalice to remember the shelter of each other. Longing for lights that lead us back to our truest selves, we kindle this chalice to illuminate the faces of friends and sacred companions, recalling once again that we find our way through the wilderness to take each other's hand. Please join me now in standing in body or spirit and singing "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." The words will be on the screen or in number 16 in the gray hymnal. Please join me in our unison affirmation. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
Let us now enter a time of shared silence together. Let's attend to all that you are carrying in your heart at the beginning of this new year. What concerns might you have for yourself, for a friend or loved one, or the world that weigh on your heart? What joys lighten your heart, enliven your spirit, and turn you towards wonder and gratitude. Following this shared silence, we'll have an opportunity to speak either these concerns or these joys into this room so that you need not hold them alone, or you may write them on the chat. So let's join first in a period of shared silence. What are some of the concerns that you are holding in your heart today? If you would like to, please speak them in this room or write them on the chat. What are the concerns that you have this morning? So let us hold those concerns together, hold one another's burdens. And now let us turn to the joys that we're holding in our heart. What joys are you experiencing this morning that you would like to share in this community? Andrew's here, yes. Mm-hmm. So may all those names that were spoken and those unspoken find peace and healing this day. May we share one another's sorrows and share one another's joy as a community knitted together through caring, compassion, and love. Amen. It took a lot of restraint for me this morning to not invite you in the dancing when we sang "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." I came to realize the fact that some of you are even here on New Year's Day, relatively early in the morning, relatively sitting up straight. I just scanned the room. After spending a New Year's Eve probably tripping the light fantastic and skipping the light fandango, that it would be too much for me to ask you to do any more dancing. The song, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple," appears in our UU hymnal. Did you know that it originally was accompanied by ecstatic dancing that the Shakers did in their religious services? It was Aaron Copland who used the tune "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple" to accompany Martha Graham's 1944 ballet Appalachian Spring that introduced that tune to many more people and made it popular. Indeed, these lyrics lend themselves to a dance. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shall not be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, 'cause by turning, we come round right. Turning. Turning is the movement that I want to reflect on with you this morning. Sometimes the turns that we make in our life are U-turns. Sometimes the turns that we make in our life seem to happen through synchronicity. Sometimes the turns that we make in our life happen because of unseen circumstances that we are responding to. And sometimes we approach the turning of our life in the direction of our intentions. So let's explore together, in a brief way, each of those kinds of turning. The turning in our life can sometimes seem like a U-turn when, as we change directions in a way that might seem very dramatic to others. The social science writer Bruce Grierson's book, U-Turns, had this very revealing subtitle. See if you resonate with it at all. The subtitle is, "What if you woke up one morning and realized you were living the wrong life?" Now, if there's any part of you that answered yes to this, maybe it's time for a little bit of a U-turn. Grierson studied the biographies and the stories of over 300 people who went through some kind of U-turn moment in their life. Most of these were ordinary people who may have risked everything to answer a wake-up call that happened within them. Some are known to us, like Mahatma Gandhi or Paul Gauguin, along with other women and men that we have never met. Grierson dispels one of the myths of U-turns, that they just seem to happen out of nowhere. He writes instead, and I quote, "Here's a secret about bolts that come from the blue. They don't. If we think someone has changed for no reason, or at least no good reason, it's only because we don't have enough information about their interior life, the ground that has been being prepared for weeks or months or years or even decades. U-turns happen because the turners are ready for them to happen. These people are primed to respond." I do believe that there is something within us that calls us to move more and more as best we can towards our own personal unfolding, what Carl Jung called our individuation, becoming our own individual self. That may seem a little abstract, but perhaps this Hasidic Jewish tale puts it more clearly to us and directly. The tale is, once the Hasidic rabbi Zusha came to his followers with tears in his eyes. They asked him, "Zusha, what's the matter?" And he told them about his vision. "I learned the question that the angels will one day ask me about my life." The followers were puzzled. "Zusha, you are pious. You are scholarly and humble. You have helped so many of us. What question about your life could be so terrifying that you would be frightened to answer it?" Zusha replied, "I have learned that the angels will not ask me, 'Why weren't you a Moses leading your people out of slavery?' And that the angels will not ask me, 'Why were you not a Joshua leading your people into the promised land?'" Zusha sighed. "They will say to me, 'Zusha, why weren't you Zusha? The same question is posed for each of us. Why weren't you Larry? Why weren't you Helen? Why weren't you Bob? Why weren't you John? Why weren't you Jim? One of the Gnostic Gospels, the Gospel of Thomas, makes a similar point in this saying that's attributed to Jesus. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. Sometimes our turnings, in addition to being U-turns, turning towards ourself, returning to ourself, sometimes our turnings also happen through what seem like synchronicity, or another way to put that is meaningful coincidence. I've been inspired by this story about Michael Hoppe. Michael Hoppe was one of those children whose parents had good intentions, but who stifled his creativity, which for him was expressed in his love for music. He was often denigrated as a child, as a dreamer, because he really, in his heart of hearts, wanted to be a musician. The denigrating way in which these words, the dreamer, were used echoed in him all of his life. And it meant that he put his musical ambitions aside. His parents dissuaded him from his musical dreams and steered him towards a much more practical, financial, successful role as a business person. He was dutiful, and rather than becoming a composer, he became an executive of a large record company where he used his composer's ears to bring to his label fine performers and composers. All the while, he quietly noodled away in his off hours, composing his own music. One day he was auditioning his company's musical artists for a film producer. He put together a tape of these artists' music, and each one after another was rejected. Having each rejected, the producer said, No, don't you have anybody that's right for me? And just as the music tape was spooling to the end, a snippet of Michael's own music came on. Hoppe was embarrassed, and he jumped up to snap off the machine. And just then the producer shouted, "That's it! That's our composer!" That was the day that Michael Hoppe realized who he was. He slowly and deliberately returned to his true path as a composer, and has since received a few Oscars. In that moment, Michael Hoppe took a turn in his life, returning to a dream that he had been pressured to put aside. The depth psychologist Ira Progoff asserts that when we enter the inner movement of our whole life history and connect ourselves to it from within, we connect with the inner principle that is trying to unfold through it. We are dancers, joining the dance of our life as it is going on. And so at this threshold of the new year, we might reflect what kind of meaningful coincidences might be happening for us. What kinds of things may we have put on hold that want to come more forthrightly into our lives and be expressed more directly. Sometimes our turnings also happen as a deep response to unforeseen, unexpected circumstances. Gabrielle Roth was a dancer until a ski injury rerouted her life. While recuperating from her injury, she began to reimagine her life's work. She began to explore some of the underlying rhythms within nature, within life, within dance, and over time, her response to her loss of no longer being able to be a dancer was to create a movement modality known as 5 rhythms movement, and to teach this to thousands in schools and prisons, studios and schools and hospitals and theaters and conferences. Actually, once when I was attending a conference with a friend in New York City, we had spent the morning listening to talks in hotel conference rooms and doing meditation. But I, having some familiarity with Gabrielle Roth's work, decided I was going to spend the afternoon in her 5 Rhythms workshop. At one point, I saw my friend, who I wasn't sure was into movement as much as I was. And when we talked after the workshop, I said to my friend, Kimberly, I was surprised to see you here in this movement workshop. And Kimberly responded, yeah, me too. However, after spending the day with those white men meditation teachers, she's African American, telling me to sit still and be quiet, I just had to move. Roth proposed in her book, Sweat Your Prayers, Movement as a Spiritual Practice, that healing is movement. If you put the body in motion, you will change. If you have a body, she says, you are a dancer. There's a dance that only you can do, that exists only in you, here and now, always changing and always true. And she continues, are you willing to listen with fascination? If you are, it will deliver you into the self you've always dreamed you could be. This is a promise, because if you don't do your dance, who will? So Gabrielle Roth actually lived out this wisdom in her own life. She did the dance that became her own. She turned by responding to her circumstance of no longer being able to dance on the stage and in the theater as she had done before after her injury. She responded to, rather than just reacted to, her circumstances. So what are some unexpected circumstances that you're experiencing at this threshold of the new year that may be prompting you to turn in some new direction in your own life? And finally, sometimes our turning comes about through our own thoughtful, deliberate intention. And that is what I believe this threshold of the new year often invites us to do. Now, intentions are very different than those proverbial New Year's resolutions. Intentions are different than goals, and let me explain. In his book, Dancing with Life, Philip Moffitt makes this distinction between goals and setting an intention. He writes, as you learn to dance with life, your goals are your preferences for the future. Your goals provide inspiration and direction, as well as determine how you allocate your time and your resources. But your goals do not determine how you act right now. Instead, your intention determines how you actually think and act and speak in any given moment, in the here and now. And so to make this distinction a little more clearer, he provides this analogy. So let's say you and a friend decide to hike up a mountain. You see the mountain top, and you know that your goal is to show your friend the vistas from the top of that mountain. It provides direction and inspiration for the hike. It even informs your preparation and your resource allocation, the time that you need to set aside, how much water, food that you'll take along, how you'll dress, etc. And therefore, you're committing to the goal is a vital part of the hike. But the actual experience of hiking is very different than reaching your goal, reaching the mountaintop. If your intention is to be mindful and to enjoy the hike, your journey up the mountainside consists of a series of single steps, rest stops, moments of seeing nature, and sharing companionship. The hike happens in the present moment in each individual step, and each step is primarily defined by your intention. If all you focus on is the goal, you can easily miss being actually present for the hike. The intention to stay with your goal in this very moment empowers you to take steps towards the mountaintop, but it's crucial that you understand how you act during each step that you take. That's your intention. Your intention determines how you're showing up in each moment, how you're responding to the process of reaching your goal. So intentions are ways of expressing what really matters to us. By making intention, we're making a commitment to align our actions with our inner values. In many ways, I feel like when we have an intention for our life, a direction that we want to move towards, that our values are those things that keep us grounded. They're like the compass points that allow us to say, am I moving forward informed by these values? And if not, how do I change the course of the direction that I'm moving in? Intentions are a way to apply our values in our daily life. So when we have an intention, we can view our daily life, our moment-to-moment experiences, as an opportunity to live out our intention. So, example, if I have an intention to be kind, I can live out that intention moment to moment. I will encounter challenges when I'm not feeling like I want to be kind, or where I might need to say some strong, harsh things, but I can still, with that intention, say what I need to say in a kind way. Does that make sense? So you allow your intention to shape your response to whatever it is that shows up. If I have an intention to be thoughtful of my impact on the Earth's resources, then at any moment I might pause and ask myself, what is this particular action going to do in terms of impact on the earth? When we fail to live out our intention at any given moment, no problem. We just start again. We just start over in the next moment. We turn back. We return again. Which leads us to our ritual this morning. So when you arrived this morning, many of you hopefully received an envelope, and we'll turn to the contents of those envelopes in just a moment. Just hold on to them with a spirit of curiosity for the moment. So this is our doorway. Be aware that we're in the presence of the Ancient of Ancients, the doorway. People have been building them as long as we've been creating shelter, collecting food, leaving for journeys. We've been creating doorways to holy shrines, doorways to mark shelter and safety, doorways to mark going out and a fresh start. Doorways mark endings and beginnings at once. We stand in the doorway of a new year today. One year has just ended, and we're just entering this new year. Like the Roman god Janus, who looked both forward and behind simultaneously. He was the dweller of the threshold, and this month of January is named for him. So this is the month of moving from one year to another. And the question before us is, how would I like to move forward into this new year? How would I like to move forward into this new year? In this brief silence that follows, in your heart of hearts, ask yourself, what's my deepest intention for this new year? You need not tell this to anyone. You need to only listen to yourself. And once you've listened, listen again. What is my deepest intention for this new year? If it's helpful, you might find completing this sentence. This year, my deepest intention is, and fill in that sentence. Keep it simple. Let it be one thing. If you find yourself creating a whole list, then maybe your intention is clear. Focus on what really matters. So let's take a time to attend to our heart and ask ourselves, what is my deepest intention for this new year? There will be a lot of chatter as you try to settle on one thing. There might be a critical voice. There might be a voice that wants to edit your intention right away, that wants to scold you into submission. Put all those aside and listen to what's my deepest intention for this new year. And now, maybe you can even put that intention in one hand and hold it physically so you can kind of hang on to that. Because now I'm going to ask you, in order to move forward intentionally in that direction that you've just named, what's one thing that you may need to let go of? What's one thing that you may need to release in order to move towards that intention? And now this is where our little packet comes in handy. You'll notice that there is a card like this that's like a card that provides a backing for you to write on the red sheet that's in your packet. Did I say write on the card? Write on this. And you'll find, hopefully, a pencil. And on this, you're going to, on this flash paper, you're going to write the one thing that you want to leave behind in order to move towards the intention that you hold in your heart of hearts today. We'll take 2 minutes or so with some music to just kind of sit and breathe and write down what it is that we want to let go of in order to move forward towards our heart's deepest intentions. This is only for your own eyes, so you can write it in code. You can write it in a language that no one else knows. You can write a word or create a symbol, but write down something that you want to release or let go of in order to move towards your heart's deepest intention. So in a moment, I'm going to invite you to the experience of moving through our door here. It's only a mythic door. It's only a symbolic doorway from this year to the new year. And I invite you into the sensation of walking through that door, of moving out of something old and moving into something new. So, on this side of the door, you'll notice there's some candles that are lit. The slip of paper that you were given earlier is flash paper, which is known as magician's paper. There's a magic to it. It's extremely flammable and also very safe. It will light very quickly and burn without ash or too much ash or smoke. I recommend that you Helen is going to demonstrate how to fold your paper. So wrap it around your finger like that, lightly. And then you're going to come up, and Helen's going to demonstrate. You're going to allow that thing that you're wanting to let go of. So you're going to be on this side. Yeah, right. And then just drop it in the water. Okay? Let go of it, and then proceed to walk through the door. Simple enough, right? Okay, so take whatever is you've written, create it, hold that up. Someone just did it. Yeah, hold it up like that. And then start walking, and we'll have the music. And we've got 3 different candles here, so let's move through this as quickly and as thoughtfully as we can. join in singing if you'd like. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to what you are. Born and reborn again. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to what you are. Born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the love of your soul. Return again. Return again. Return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to what you are. Born and reborn again. So let's join now in a time of meditation. As we conclude our ritual, let us join together in some prayerful meditation using this blessing for a new beginning by John O'Donohue. In out of the way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge.
For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness grow inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown.
It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this?
Then the delight, when your courage kindled, and out you stepped into new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you.
Though your destination is not clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning. That is one with your own life's desire.
Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. For our stewardship moment this morning, I am channeling the late First U member, Phyllis Wynn. For years, Phil hosted a New Year's Day women's gathering in her Arden home, and I see a number of you here this morning that were there with me. It was one of those traditions I really enjoyed and looked forward to. The energy of the women Phil collected in the room was just palpable. Phil was an early feminist, and we were all doers, and it was delightful to be among the collection. At one point in the afternoon, we formed a circle and briefly shared one highlight of our year. Women were making things happen. I'm not sure when she started it, but I remember when she included our first and only female governor, which would have been in the early 2000s. Very appropriate, to be sure. Also about this time, Phil came into an inheritance that allowed her to make a major gift to our church. What I remember most is the joy that Phil described that she had in going into our then senior minister, Patrick O'Neill's office with a check for $1 million that would purchase the land on the corner where the library once stood. She exemplified for me the spirit of philanthropy, promoting the welfare of others. Clearly, her gratitude for her ability to offer these resources helped to inspire her generosity. She gave to First Unitarian as well as a number of other worthy organizations. Then she had the vision of establishing a youth philanthropy fund at the Delaware Community Foundation in 1999 to introduce young people to the idea of philanthropy and to encourage youth to be involved in philanthropic, boy, that's an interesting word, in philanthropic ventures. Then today, there is a youth philanthropy board in each of Delaware's 3 counties, an ongoing legacy of Phil's vision. Our parish hall is now named the Phil Wynn Parish Hall in recognition of her stewardship and love for our First Unitarian community and our work. May she inspire each of us to find that joy in making contributions to our church, in making ways to make it possible for First Unitarian to continue to create a meaningful spiritual home for each of us, as well as to serve our community. Phil, it is a joy to be remembering you, especially today. You and your spirit live on. If you are here today, those of you in the sanctuary, if you could put your check or your cash in the cash box at the rear of the sanctuary after the service. The 4 ways of giving will appear on the screen during the offertory music for those of you at home. All contributions will be gratefully received. Please join me now in dedicating our offering to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action. We dedicate our lives and these, our offerings. Linda, it is so wonderful to have you back in our sanctuary this morning. She has such a way with the piano. All right, if you have lit a chalice at home, I invite you to extinguish it as Reverend Larry extinguishes our chalice here in the sanctuary. And I read these closing words by Reverend Joan Johnson. There is a fire at the center of each of us, a fire that, if nourished, brings light and warmth into our lives. Every other person also has a fire at their center. Our actions in this world can nourish the fire of others, or, depending on our choices, our actions can dampen, even extinguish those fires. As we dampen or extinguish the fire of others, we dampen or extinguish our own. As we encourage and nourish the fire of others, we encourage and nourish our own fire. By encouraging and nourishing the fire at the center of each other, we bring even greater light and warmth to this world and to ourselves. This week, may you nourish and encourage the fire at the center of others, and may you be nourished and encouraged at your center.
So following our benediction, we're going to have a closing hymn, number 6. And also encourage you to wish your neighbors here a Happy New Year and greet each other. We'll have a time for fellowship in the parish hall as well. These are familiar words to many of us. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. The morning star comes out at night. Without the dark, there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sun shine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance. Stand and, as you're willing and able, sing hymn number 6.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to Thank you.